Maybe the problem was never a lack of money. Maybe it was a lack of update. You may be operating on an old system, installed when you didn't even have a choice. A system that runs silently and decides how much you earn, how much you try, and even how much you believe you deserve. And the most dangerous part is that you call this reality. Scarcity is not destiny. It is configuration, and configuration can be changed. But before changing your life, you need to see the code that is running. 1. The invisible program that is deciding for you. You think for yourself, but observe honestly. When an opportunity appears, what is your automatic reaction? When an unexpected bill shows up, what does your mind say? When someone prospers near you, what do you feel first? Most of these responses are not conscious. They are reflexes. Phrases like, "This is hard, it's not for me, it's always been this way, I'm not lucky with money," don't appear by accident. They have been repeated so many times that they became an internal default. An internal default becomes a lens. You start seeing only what confirms the active program. If the program says it's hard, you notice difficulty before you notice the solution. If the program says it's not for you, you don't even try with intensity. The most curious part is that you don't realize you are obeying. The program operates in silence. And here is the powerful part. You don't need to destroy anything. You need to observe. For 15 minutes, simply observe your thoughts when the subject is money, opportunities, or growth. Don't change anything. Don't force positivity. Just notice. You will see repetition. And repetition reveals code. When you see the program, it loses strength. Because automatic only works in the dark. Awareness is the first break. 2. Your focus is training. Your reality without you. Noticing. Now here comes something almost no one realizes. Scarcity is not sustained only by belief. It is sustained by attention. You may say you want to prosper, but if you spend the day focusing on what is missing, your mind understands that the main theme is lack, and the mind works where you point it. If you open your bank statement with tension, you reinforce tension. If you think about new projects already anticipating failure, you reinforce limitation. If you compare your life to someone else's and feel inferior, you reinforce insufficiency. Repeated focus becomes life direction. It's not intensity, it's frequency. In 15 minutes, you can change that. Choose one single point where there is real possibility. It can be a skill you have, a contact you never activated, knowledge that can be monetized, a mistake that can turn into learning. Focus on it consciously. Don't fantasize about instant wealth. Focus on concrete possibility. When you direct your attention, your energy begins to work in that field. What you sustain as focus becomes your dominant mental environment. And dominant mental environment begins to shape decisions. You don't need 1,000 techniques. You need redirection. 3. Sufficiency is a state. You decide before seeing results. Here is the point that changes the game. Scarcity is not just thought, it is a sensation. It's that slight contraction in your body when the subject is money. It's the tension in your chest when you think about growing. It's insecurity disguised as prudence. If you don't change the sensation, the thought comes back. That's why activating sufficiency is essential. Sufficiency is not wealth. It is internal stability. Remember a moment when something worked out for you. It can be small, an unexpected opportunity, a problem solved, an unexpected compliment. Recreate the sensation, not the story. The sensation. How was your body? How was your breathing? Was there tension or was there calm? Sufficiency is calm. When you sustain this sensation for a few minutes, something changes. Your body stops operating in defense. And when the body leaves defense mode, the mind begins to see expansion. The vibration of sufficiency begins as a choice. You choose to feel capable before having proof. Choose to feel stable before seeing numbers. This is not pretending. It is training. If for 15 minutes you sustain sufficiency instead of scarcity, you begin teaching your mind a new reference. And the mind learns through emotional repetition. Scarcity was learned. Sufficiency can be learned too. You can stop the video now, and nothing will change. Your day continues the same. Your thoughts keep running. The program remains active. Or you can stay a few more minutes and do something most people never do. Take command of your own mental pattern. Because breaking scarcity is not about understanding. It is about interrupting. And what comes next is exactly the point where almost everyone fails. If you cross this point, you will not return to automatic mode the same way again. Now yes, 4. Declare that you are leaving the old program. Intention reorganizes your system. Scarcity survives in doubt. While you only try to think differently, nothing changes deeply. The old system keeps running in the background. To break a program, you must declare closure, not to the universe, to your own mind. Define something simple and direct mentally. I no longer operate in scarcity mode. Feel the weight of that sentence. It is not a motivational affirmation. It is a structural decision. When you declare internal closure, your perception begins to look for coherence with this new position. Be specific about what you want to expand. Income, confidence, opportunities, ability to receive. The clearer it is, the more organized your internal system becomes. Intention directs attention, and attention reorganizes pattern. Where there is clear intention, there is immediate reconfiguration of focus. Your mind begins filtering differently. Situations that once seemed impossible begin to be analyzed as challenging, but not unreachable. Strong intention does not shout, it decides. And here is the important detail. Don't explain to yourself why you deserve it. Don't negotiate. Don't justify. Just choose. The old program worked through automatic repetition. The new program begins with conscious decision. And conscious decision creates a new axis. You have already recognized the program. You have already interrupted automatic focus. You have already activated sufficiency. You have already declared exit from the old pattern. Now comes the point that turns this into concrete change. 5. Your behavior is keeping scarcity alive. Even when you say you want to grow here, is something that may feel deeply uncomfortable. You can study prosperity, you can watch videos, you can repeat affirmations, you can feel momentary inspiration. But if your daily decisions continue aligned with fear, you are confirming the old program. Scarcity does not survive only in thought. It survives in small choices. When you avoid looking at numbers because you feel discomfort, you are training your mind to associate money with threat. When you accept less than you deserve to avoid exposure, you are training your mind to stay small. When you let opportunities pass because you fear making mistakes, you are reinforcing limited identity. The brain learns from what you do, not from what you wish. If you act like someone who fears losing, it understands the world is dangerous. If you act like someone who believes in expansion, it begins to recalibrate your sense of possibility. And here is the real turning point. You don't need a big leap. You need a behavior incompatible with scarcity. Ask with brutal honesty, what is the smallest action that proves I am no longer operating in fear? Maybe it's organizing something you've been avoiding for months. Maybe it's talking about value without diminishing yourself. Maybe it's investing time in learning something that can increase your income. Maybe it's simply stopping speaking negatively about money in casual conversations. Because language shapes behavior, and behavior shapes identity. Identity shapes reality. When you act differently, even while feeling slight insecurity, you send a clear signal to your nervous system. The danger is not real. And when the body stops operating in defense, the mind stops creating scarcity as protection. Aligned action is not about extreme effort. It is about silent coherence. You don't need to appear confident. You need to act like someone who decided to grow. And when behavior and decision meet, the program truly begins to be replaced. 6. What is holding you back is not lack of money. It is lack of internal permission. Now let's go deeper. Many people do not live in scarcity because of incapacity. They live in it because of unconscious loyalty. Loyalty to family history. Loyalty to the environment where they grew up. Loyalty to a group that believes money is difficult or dangerous. There is a silent fear of growing too much and losing belonging. And that fear blocks expansion. You may desire prosperity, But if growing means feeling different from your own people, your system freezes. Because to the brain, belonging is more important than prospering. This conflict creates invisible sabotage. You start something and stop. You gain and lose. You move forward and step back. Not because of incapacity, but because growing threatens your old identity. There is also guilt. Guilt about earning more than your parents. Guilt about having more ease than friends. Guilt about prospering in a world where many struggle. And while this guilt exists, your system will block receiving. Receiving requires emotional permission. You need to accept that growing is not betrayal, that prospering is not abandonment, that having more does not mean being less human. Permission is not a beautiful phrase. It is a deep internal adjustment. Observe your reaction when you imagine real expansion, not a small increase, but significant growth. Is there lightness or is there tension? If there is tension, it needs to be faced. You do not block because you don't want money. You block because you associate money with loss of connection, judgment, or identity change. Resolve this internally and the flow changes. Say with internal firmness, I can grow without losing who I am. I can prosper without abandoning my essence. I can expand and still belong. When this permission truly enters, something relaxes. And when it relaxes, expansion finds space. Scarcity is not lack of opportunity. It is unresolved emotional defense. Resolving this changes the entire game. 7. If you don't sustain it, the old program takes over again. Here is the truth almost no one says. You can break the pattern in 15 minutes. But if you don't take command afterward, the old pattern takes over again. The mind prefers what is familiar, even if limiting. Scarcity may be uncomfortable, but it is known. And the brain tends to return to what it knows because familiar feels safe. That is why the final step is not monitoring thought. It is assuming mental leadership. Every time an old thought appears, you have two options. Accept it as automatic truth, or recognize it as an echo of the old system. Don't fight it, don't dramatize, just don't validate it. Most people's mistake is trying to completely eliminate scarcity from the mind. That does not work. What works is stopping obedience. You don't need to erase the thought. You need to stop following it. When a limiting thought appears, simply recognize this is the old program trying to run, and return to the chosen state. That return is power. It is not emotional intensity. It is silent command. Real reprogramming happens when you no longer enter into conversation with scarcity. You simply don't give it a stage. And after a few days of doing this, something changes structurally. Scarcity loses strength because it no longer receives emotional attention. And when attention leaves, pattern weakens. You don't defeat scarcity by shouting abundance. You defeat it by ignoring the old command. That is mental maturity. That is internal authority. That is system update.